Nerd Mafia, forget about it. We run laps in 12 parsecs, maybe less, and done flat. A good fella here to bless them all with fun facts.
Leave the gun. Take the cannoli.
What's good, YouTube? This is Nerd Mafia, and whether you're an old or new viewer, welcome to the family. Today we're going to talk about each project of the MCU's Phase 4 and the questions those projects left us with that have yet to be answered. Before we get into that, though, I need you to run away from the TVA and hit that like button, and if you're new, break through Wanda's hex and slap that subscribe button. Then set notifications to all videos in order to join the nerd mob and never miss out on another video produced by this channel. Also, in addition to the Twitter, Facebook, and Insta socials, there's a Discord channel to talk spoilers on all current and upcoming content of interest, but mostly just hang out and goof around with like-minded people. All links are in the description. Now, let's get into it. In this video, we're going to run through each series and movie Marvel Studios has released in Phase 4 and the questions they left us with, which may or may not end up being relevant down the road. With that being said, let's begin. First off is WandaVision. This was our first project of Phase 4, an introduction to the MCU format of television series for streaming consumption on Disney+. This series was unique in nature and is widely loved by casual fans. Two big questions that are yet to be solved from the series included Wanda's twin sons. While we didn't know it yet, Wanda's sons Billy and Tommy would be the first two Young Avenger members introduced, if you don't count Cassie Lang, aka Stature from Avengers Endgame. And I'm not sure I do because that actress has been recast. The big question posed by this series end is how will they return to our reality in order to join the eventual Young Avengers team as Wiccan and Speed as we know them from the comics. Next, Vision's return. As we saw at the series conclusion, Sword is able to put back together and revive Vision with energy from Wanda's hex. He takes a White Vision form as a callback to the comics and eventually is confronted by Wanda's hex version of Vision, who helps White Vision access all of his past memories. And then he literally flies away and has yet to return. There are rumors that he's going to be showing back up in a project called Vision Quest in the future, so maybe we'll get some answers then. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Is Steve Rogers on the moon? I'm just playing. To be honest with you, this show doesn't leave us with much as far as lingering questions, besides why couldn't they have given us a better plot? But the closest thing to them included Valentina Contessa, you know who I'm talking about. We meet this character for the first time as she slips the shamed Captain America, John Walker, her business card. Since then, we've had a couple more encounters with her, but still have no knowledge of her backstory or real understanding of her true intentions, besides the fact that Everest Ross was hitting that. The Power Broker. A big twist was unfolded when we learned that Sharon Carter wasn't one of the good guys anymore. Honestly, I don't think I was alone in not liking this decision. There are a lot of holes in it, like why would she leave Sam, Bucky, and Zemo to let Zemo kill Dr. Nago, who recreated a better version of the Super Soldier Serum, if she was trying to profit off it? I mean, I guess the main question I would have is she working for a bigger fish? And why, Sharon? Just why? Please be a Skrull. Loki. Let's take a look at Ravonna. Loki was hands down one of my favorite MCU series and introduced us to variants and the opening up of the main timeline to the entirety of the multiverse. By series end, we learned that all TVA agents are variants, including Ravonna. The MCU version of Ravonna ends up escaping Morbius in the last episode and leaves us wondering where she's going and what role she's going to play in the ultimate plans of He Who Remains or Immortus version of Kang. Then there's Sylvie. As we all know, she sends Loki back to the TVA, or at least a version of it, and kills He Who Remains, ending the seclusion of the sacred timeline. What happens next to her is anybody's guess, as we don't see her in any future projects to date, maybe Loki 2, and we most likely have to wait until that season to see where and what she ends up doing after the fact. Next is Black Widow. First, let's talk about Taskmaster. Black Widow could have been a much bigger movie, if not made after Endgame and instead during the height of the Infinity Saga. We get an alternate version of Taskmaster in this movie that, for the most part, people didn't think lived up to the Tony Masters version of this character from the comics. However, this character lives through the conclusion of the movie and is referred to as the Taskmaster program, leaving us to wonder if there's still hope Taskmaster can return in a different and or better form. Contessa Valentina. We again meet this character in the movie's post-credit scene, this time misleading Natasha Romanoff's sister Yelena into believing Clint Barton was responsible for the death of Black Widow. We haven't seen her recruiting any more talent yet, but I'm sure we will. The question is, do we need to wait until the eventual Thunderbolt movie to do so? Or will she be the main antagonist? What if? Now, this series, as we all know, was an anthology, and unless I'm missing something big, most questions in it generated have already been answered. I'm sure you'll let me know in the comments if I'm wrong, but either way, hit a like and subscribe if you're new, and we'll call it even. Shang-Chi. We got a few here. First, let's talk about the Abomination. We got an awesome fight or training scene between Abomination and Wong in this movie that left us wondering when we'd see Tim Roth again in the MCU. And while it looks like we have a partial answer from the She-Hulk series, there's still a little bit left to be desired, and I'm sure we're all still wondering if he's going to be involved in that Thunderbolt movie. The origin of the rings. The MCU version of the Ten Rings seemed to be taking a very different direction with an enigmatic origin, and Wong points out they're sending out a beacon-like signal since Shang-Chi took them from his father. Many have speculated this could be ancient Kree technology in calling out to that race to retrieve them, or could possibly be a signal for Galactus to enter the MCU. Eternals. Eternals was one of the most distinctive MCU movies, yet we'll leave it at that. Anyway, besides where the hell were you when we needed you, this movie changed the comic book origins of the Eternals, Deviants, humans completely. And since Thanos is technically an Eternal with deviant mutated genes in the comics, how many were left wondering what the MCU makes of him now? Especially with the appearance of his brother Eros, played by Harry Styles, in the second post-credit scenes. So I guess if they make it Eternals 2, maybe we'll learn more about Thanos and maybe even the MCU version of Titan? Hawkeye. This is one of my favorite series on Disney+, maybe because I love the Matt Fraction run of comics so much, and it was based off that, or maybe because Hawkeye is just a more relatable character for me as a grumpy old dad myself. But this series was fun, and pretty much cut and dry besides the mortality of Kate Bishop's dad, who I really thought would be proven still to be alive in the finale, but that's a whole different topic. We got the return of Vincent D'Onofrio's portrayal of Kingpin, only for him to be shot in the head. So is he dead? Alive? We should learn his fate in the Echo series sometime next year. Spider-Man No Way Home. It might be a controversial take, but this movie is by far my favorite MCU movie of all time. Better than Endgame, Winter Soldier, Thor the Dark World, all of them. I mean, I love Spider-Man, and think about it. How many times have we as fans said, wouldn't it be awesome if this version and this version joined this version of a character in this movie? Well, Marvel and Sony did that, and it was glorious. Maybe the biggest questions from this movie involve the future of Spider-Man. And while there's ongoing negotiations between Sony and Marvel about a whole new set of Spider-Man movies, this movie was proven to be the climax of what ended up being the MCU Spider-Man's origin story. So mostly we're all left wondering, will we ever see MJ, Ned, or Happy, even Tom Holland at this point, portraying Spider-Man again? Moon Knight. This series was fun, but let me down overall by teasing us with Kang Easter eggs and then never delivering any kind of conqueror. Also, by series end, I was anticipating a godlike connection to Thor Love and Thunder that for the most part never happened. At the end, the only question I guess I have is, does the Jake Lockley persona get his own suit? Oh, and what happened to Gus? Is he okay? Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse of Madness. This movie gave us our biggest dive into the multiverse since it was first introduced, and really explained to us by He Who Remains / Immortus / Kang at the end of Loki. America Chavez took us to multiple universes, and it was awesome. And speaking of, America Chavez is the topic of our first question, and that is, when will we see her again? Will she now become a master of the mystic arts? And when will she join the Young Avengers like she does in the comics? Doctor Strange also meets the Illuminati of Earth 838, and with that, we're introduced to Reed Richards and Charles Xavier in the MCU for the first time. We also get Black Bolt and the idea of Inhumans, but nobody cares because they suck. This bears question to when will we see Mr. Fantastic and Charles Xavier in the MCU. We know after the MCU panel at San Diego Comic-Con that the Fantastic Four movie now has a release date of November 2024, or maybe later. I think they pushed it back. But there's no official confirmation for the mutants. And with Secret Wars occurring a year later, and this being the Multiverse Saga, wouldn't it make sense for there to be an earlier introduction to these characters? And more importantly, would John Krasinski be the Earth-616 Reed Richards? Wanda destroyed the Darkhold in every universe by this movie's end, but in the post-credit scene, we see lingering effects of its use still with Doctor Strange. Since he has a photographic memory and was the last to open the book, is Strange the equivalent of the last Darkhold at this point? And what incursion was Clea talking about when she takes him to the Dark Dimension? Maybe the most obvious question for this movie, though, is whether or not Wanda is still alive. She did kind of crumble the top of Mount Wundagore onto herself, but I'm pretty sure there's an awesome storyline she'll be a part of in the near future, and one I've been planning to create a video about soon in the MCU adaptation of Avengers: The Children Crusade. Now let's talk Ms. Marvel. I mean, there's definitely a lot of questions related to supporting characters that were newly introduced in the show, like will Bruno ultimately end up studying in Wakanda, like in the comics, but what do Kamran's powers even mean? But if I'm being honest, I'm not putting much thought into these until another Ms. Marvel solo project comes out, if it does happen. The biggest lingering questions from the show revolve around the Bangle and what exactly its origin is. Does it have anything to do with the Kree or the Ten Rings? Are we getting an influx of mutants now that Kamala is the MCU's first confirmed mutant? And where was Captain Marvel when she swapped places with Kamala? Thor: Love and Thunder. What did this movie even leave us with besides hilarity? When will we see a confrontation between Thor and Hercules? Not going to lie, I'm not even that interested in Hercules the character, but I've wandered into MCU movies like Guardians of the Galaxy feeling similar, and obviously I've been turned. Why show us Valhalla? Is this hinting towards some sort of resurrection? It's basically happened before already in Moon Knight. Will Gore's daughter, Love, play a larger role in the future? There have been some theories out there linking her more closely to Eternity, but we'll have to wait and see. That brings us to She-Hulk. What exactly happened to Smart Hulk on Sakaar? I'm sure we'll learn about that in an upcoming project that may or may not be confirmed in World War Hulk. And then when will we see Scar again? And why in the hell didn't they use this concept instead of giving him a $5 haircut? Will Emil Blonsky get recruited to the Thunderbolts after all? Pretty sure I already asked that question. And will She-Hulk's crazy fourth wall break straight through the Marvel homepage of Disney Plus lead to even crazier stories from characters like Deadpool and maybe even lesser known characters like Gwenpool? Lastly, Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever. I straight up love this movie. Definitely a tearjerker. I wouldn't put it as like my top Marvel movie, but it's definitely in the top tier. When will we see Namor again? This character was amazing, powerful, and very well acted. So I just want to see more of him. Will we see him again as a villain, hero, or both? Also, what will Everett Ross do now? Last we saw him, he's arrested by his ex-wife, who is secretly forming a Thunderbolts team, and then freed by Okoye, led by the Midnight Angels. Will Ross play a major role in countering Val? With the reveal of T'Challa Jr., is there still room for a T'Challa recast? The movement is still very much alive, and despite how good this movie was, the absence of the character was definitely felt. Check out how I wish his death was handled in this video. But wow, this is probably the longest video I've ever created that wasn't a live stream. For everyone that made it the whole way through, you're a real one. Make sure you like the video if it was entertaining and subscribe to the channel if you're new. That's all I have for today. Until the next one, I'm out.